I'm Jim Shell. Welcome back to the Structure Fishing Workshop. The part 3, we're going to continue our discussion and talk about water conditions. All right, Buck Perry has traveled the whole United States and actually the world fishing, and he's fished nearly every major body of water, and he has determined that there are 5 basic watercolors. They are clear, yellow-green, white sandy, red sandy, and brown cypress. And we're going to reclassify these and tell you which ones give you the toughest fish movements and which watercolors are the best. And it's very similar to weather. Back in the weather part of the workshop, we said the lighter or brighter it is, the tougher fishing will be. The darker the condition, the better fishing will be. The same holds true for watercolor too. The more light you have penetrating the water, the tougher the fishing will be. The fish are going to be deeper. The less light that penetrates the water, the better fishing will be. Now let's reclassify these lakes and tell you which ones give you the worst fish movements to the best fish movements. All right, the worst one is obviously going to be clear water. And in all these watercolors, you have variations where you'll have very clear to ultra clear. And for example, yellow-green, you'll have a light yellow-green to a dark yellow-green. So you'll have some variations. But these are the 5 basic watercolors. And once again, the watercolor that's going to give you the toughest fish movements or the deepest fish movements is going to be clear. And you'll have cases where you'll have, clear to very clear water. That's going to be your toughest water condition. Right behind it, very close behind it, matter of fact, Buck actually later on in his writings sort of flip-flopped brown cypress with clear. Is brown cypress being the worst? Now initially you may look at brown cypress and you think, wow, it's pretty dark watercolor. Why is it the worst or second worst watercolor? It's a little deceiving, brown cypress. Even though it appears to be a dark watercolor, the light frequencies that affect the fish are still able to penetrate a brown cypress watercolor. And what we mean by brown cypress, it sort of looks like iced tea. Up here in the Midwest, what I would consider a brown cypress watercolor would be the flowages off of the Wisconsin River system, such as Lake Wisconsin, Castle Rock, Peenwall flowage. Those all have a brown cypress watercolors. And there's several reservoirs that are down south, I believe mostly the coastal reservoirs where you'll run into a brown cypress watercolor. But it's like I say, it's a little misleading because it appears to be good watercolor, but the light frequency that affects the fishing is almost the same as clear. And I believe later in Buck's writings, he sort of flip-flopped the two, but the brown cypress isn't much better, or really isn't that much better than clear. Now the next watercolor we have is yellow-green. This is probably the most common watercolor that you and I will run into, especially up in the Midwest area. And yellow-green has various shades. You'll have a light yellow-green, medium yellow-green to a darker yellow-green. And that's number 3 on the list. And the next on the list is white sandy and red sandy. And when you're talking about white sandy and red sandy, those watercolors, you're primarily going to find those in southern reservoirs. Personally, I don't think I've ever been on a lake that has red sandy watercolor. I believe I fished one lake that I would probably classify as white sandy. I think I've got a picture coming up later. That is Rathbun Lake in Iowa. It had great watercolor. But when you've got white sandy and red sandy, it's such a dark watercolor that the light doesn't penetrate it very well at all, and it gives the best fish movements or the shallowest fish movements than any of the other watercolors. Now on the next slide here, we can put weed lines to these watercolors. Will help identify, if you know what the weed line is, it'll help identify what kind of situation you have with watercolor. Clear lakes will have a weed line anywhere from 12 feet to 20 feet, or even over 20 feet. There's some lakes that I fished, and I'm sure you have too, where we've had very clear water, where we've had weeds as deep as 25, 26 feet. That's very clear water. So a clear watercolor is going to give you anything from a 12-foot weed line down to a 25-foot weed line and plus. Yellow-green watercolor you'll have weeds that will be up to 10 feet. And if it's a dark yellow-green watercolor, it could be about a 4 or 5 foot weed line. Medium yellow-green watercolor would be 6, 7, 8 foot weed line. And a light yellow-green will be up to 10 foot weed line. Brown cypress, even though we said it's the second worst or pretty much equal with clear, you'll only find weeds down to about 4 feet. The light penetration of the brown watercolor prohibits weed growth, but it still affects the fish. But then when you talk about white sandy watercolor and red sandy watercolor, it's such good watercolor for fishing that you're really not going to have a weed line situation at all with the white sandy and red sandy watercolor. Those are the ones we want to fish. All right, here's a picture of what really clear watercolor looks like. That's probably, I'm guessing, 30 feet deep. You can see there. Buck sees a lake like this and he says it's not fishing water. He calls this drinking water. There's been a lot of times where I've heard stories that Buck will check out new lakes and he'll pull up to the dock and he'll take a look, and if it's gin clear like that, he gets back in his camper home and he goes down and try to find the next lake. Not saying that there's no fish in, or there's good fish, not good fishing in clear lakes. It just means you got to fish a lot deeper. You got to be more precise, and when the fish do become active and move, it's going to be for a shorter time period versus better watercolor. Now here's a picture of pretty good watercolor, probably a medium dark yellow green. When your lure disappears in about a foot of water or less, that's pretty good watercolor. There's just another picture of a really good watercolor. That looks like it's a white, sandy, yellowish green kind of watercolor. But you see watercolor like that, that's pretty good. All right, now we can probably look at some lakes, and before we even get on the water, determine what kind of watercolor we should expect to find. If you're fishing a natural lake and it's landlocked and spring-fed, more than likely you're going to have pretty clear watercolor. If you're fishing a natural lake that is stream-fed, has a stream running in and out of it, you're generally going to see better watercolor in those kind of natural lakes. Now, when you're dealing with a chain of lakes, this map here happens to be the Channel Lakes in northern Illinois. The same holds true. Some of you guys may be familiar with the Madison Channel Lakes. When you're dealing with a chain of lakes like that, where the northern or most lake or upstream lake is going to have the clearest water, and as you progress down that chain of lakes, the watercolor is going to get better and better until you get to the end here. If you guys are familiar with the Fox Chain of Lakes up here, everyone knows that the most northern lakes, Lake Catherine and forgot the other name, Channel Lake, I believe, they're really clear watercolors. We go down to the next lake on that chain, Lake Marie, we got better watercolor. And by the time we get all the way to the last lake on the chain, which I think is Pistaki, I mean, it goes from clear water to the northernmost lake to really good watercolor in the southernmost downstream lake. If you guys are familiar with the Madison Chain of Lakes, the first lake on the chain is Lake Mendota. It's probably like a light yellow-green, clear to a light yellow-green watercolor, but by the time you get to the last chain on that lake, which is Conganza, you've got a medium to a dark yellow-green watercolor. So if you're looking for good watercolor on a chain of lakes, you want to focus on the lakes, the lower part of the chain. All right, here's a picture of algae bloom. A lot of lakes during the summer, when the water really warms up, or if we have a really good hot and warm summer, you'll notice that a lake will develop an algae bloom. As you see in the picture here, there's a lot of lakes up north that are known for big algae blooms. When you see this algae bloom, boy, that means that fishing is going to get really good on that lake. That algae bloom is like changing that watercolor from a clear lake, clear water, or a light yellow green to a medium or dark yellow green lake. A lot of people, when they see that algae bloom, the uneducated fisherman thinks, oh, nasty place to fish. I don't want to fish here. If you know anything about watercolor, when you see that algae bloom, that's when we want to fish those lakes. We love seeing algae bloom like this. All right, now when it comes to reservoirs, this is Red Lake in central Illinois. But in reservoirs, the better watercolor will be up in the headwaters. It's sort of the opposite of a chain of lakes. In a reservoir, you'll have better watercolor up in the headwaters, and as you get closer to the dam, that water tends to settle and clear up. So closer to the dam, you'll get clearer water, where up in the headwaters, you'll get darker watercolor. Quick fish story. I was fishing just this past year on my first time I ever fished the Gray Lake in Arkansas, and it was Memorial Day weekend, and took a look at the map. Never been on the lake before, and I figured I'm probably going to have much better watercolor if I fish towards the headwaters. So I found a launch ramp in the headwaters, and as I suspected, I had good watercolor up in the headwaters. And there's a picture of some nice wipers that we caught on that lake. So once again, you're fishing a reservoir, you'll find better watercolor typically in the headwaters, and it's going to clear up as you go downstream down by the dam. All right, now just to illustrate the importance of watercolor, we're going to go through the effects of a cold front, but we're going to show you how it is on the lakes with different watercolor. The structures in all three of these lakes are identical. Let's take a look at them. We have the last drop off is at 50 feet, and then we have a stump in 40 feet of water. We have a break line at 30 feet. Looks like another stump at 24 feet. And the only difference between these three structures are identical. The only difference is watercolor. We have one with clear water. We have one with very clear water, and our next one is like a very light yellow green, and we have like a white sandy on the next one. And because of the watercolor, all three of these lakes are identical, but because of the watercolor, the clear lake, we're going to have a weed line at about 15 feet, it looks like. The light yellow-green lake looks like we've got a weed line around 10 feet. And the white sandy lake, as we talked about, we don't have a weed line condition. So let's take a look and see how watercolor affects the fish movements. Now remember, these are all identical structures except for watercolor. Now on day one after the cold front, the fish in the very clear lake are going to be in their cold front sanctuary, which were shown to be about 80 feet deep. And in the light yellow-green lake, they're at about 70 feet deep. And in the white sandy lake, we're showing them to be at a depth of 50 feet. Now let's look at day two after the cold front. In the clear lake, the fish are still 70 feet. In the yellow-green lake, they moved up to 50 feet. And in the white sandy lake, they moved up to 40 feet. Now it's 3 days after a cold front. Now the fish have returned to their normal sanctuary depths. For the clear lake, that's 50 feet. The yellow-green lake, we're at 40 feet. And the white sandy lake, we're at 30 feet. Now, day four after the front, the fish start moving pretty good now. In the clear water lake, the fish become active. They move to the 40-foot stump. A couple of stragglers may move as shallow as the 30-foot stump. In the light yellow-green lake, the school of fish moved to the 30-foot break line, with a few fish going to the 24-foot stump. And in the white sandy lake, the entire school of adult fish moved to the 24-foot stump, and some fish showing up at the 15-foot stump as well too. Now we're day five after the cold front. Our clear lake, we see that the school of fish have now migrated and moved to the 30-foot break line. Few fish may show up at the 24-foot stump. In the medium yellow-green lake, the school of adult fish have moved to the 24-foot stump, with some going up to the break line there, or stump, whatever that is, in 15 feet of water. And in the white sandy, the school of adult fish have moved up to the 15-foot break, and some fish going as shallow as the 7-foot break line. Now on day 6, the clear lake, and this is a good movement on day 6, the school of adult fish have moved to the 24-foot break line. You might see a few fish at the weed line around 15 feet. On the yellow-green lake, the school moved to the 15-foot stump. And on the white sandy lake, the school of adult fish have moved all the way up to the 7-foot break line, and some fish have moved even shallower. Now, one thing I didn't mention here, let's take a look at this day 6, how long this activity period is. The darker the water, not only the shallower the fish are going to move, but they're going to be active for a longer time too. On this day 6, for example, in the Clearwater Lake, these fish are going to be active on that 30-foot break line, or I'm sorry, the 24-foot stump. This activity period will last, we'll say, 15 minutes before they drop back down again. In the lake in the middle, the yellow-green lake, they're at that 15-foot stump. They're maybe active for about 30-35 minutes before they drop back down again. Now in this lake with the white sandy watercolor, those fish are up shallow. They're at the 7-foot, 10-foot break line. They may be up there for 45 minutes to an hour activity period before they drop back down again. So that better watercolor, they're going to be active for nearly an hour, and they're going to be shallower water, which means they're going to be a lot easier to catch, or a lot easier for us to present our lures, versus the Clearwater Lake, which means that they're going to be active for only 15 minutes, and we got to be more precise with our lures on there. So watercolor really makes a big difference in fish activity. Now, we cannot control the weather conditions, but we do have a choice sometimes on the watercolor we fish. If we have access to a lot of lakes, we could pick a lake, especially if we were fishing underneath a tough weather condition, we can pick a lake that has better watercolor to fish. And as I said earlier, if you fish a clear lake and you have a good algae bloom later in the summer, well, then that's going to be the time where you may want to fish that clear lake when it gets a good algae bloom on there. All right, here's a picture. This is Rathbun Lake I mentioned earlier. This lake probably has one of the best watercolors that I've fished so far. We were there a few years ago. It was our first time fishing the lake, and I would say that this was like a dark yellow-green, white sandy kind of watercolor. And even though we had good weather conditions, as you can see in the background there, the cloud cover, this was pre-frontal conditions, and that walleye came at a break line around 18 feet deep, and it was a 31, 32-inch walleye, something like that, which is a pretty big walleye out in the middle of Iowa there. So watercolor was what made this trip a very successful one here. All right, let's go over to questions you may ask for weather and water. All right, one time I heard you say that the second day after a cold front could be often worse than the first day as far as fishing results. Yes, very true here. A couple of reasons for that. The first day after a cold front, you could still have stragglers present that you can, are still catchable. But by the time that second day comes, those stragglers are back in deep water too. And the first day after a cold front, you'll have these, some scattered cloud coverage as you see here. And but by the second day comes, that cloud cover is going to be all gone. You're going to have a bright, clear sky. So yes, the second day after a cold front is typically tougher fishing than the first day after a cold front. All right, you say when the fish move, they all move. How about fish in a reservoir where one section is clear and another section is dingy? Do the fish move in both sections? Yes, they do. And great question. When we're fishing a reservoir, say someone's fishing up towards the headwaters where you've got good watercolor, and the fish up there could move, say up to 15 feet, and they're active for 45 minutes. You got a better chance of making a catch where you got the better watercolor. If I'm fishing that same lake down closer to the dam where the watercolor is a lot clearer, that fish activity period may only last 5 minutes, and instead of moving up to 15 feet, these fish may only be moving up to 25 feet. So yeah, I've seen that happen multiple times. Where I'm fishing the headwaters, I make a good catch, and I check it with my buddy who's fishing closer to the dam, and it's catch difference is night and day. So yes, so if you're ever fishing a lake, reservoir, and as Buck always says, if conditions are tough, you have tough weather conditions and tough water conditions, it's always wise in a reservoir to fish towards the headwaters. You're usually going to find more stable water conditions. The best movements could occur in the hottest, muggiest days of the year. Why is this so? Well, typically the hottest, muggiest days of the year is because you've got a stretch of stable weather. It's stable for several days, so it just builds and it's building and it's building. So yes, typically the hottest, muggiest days of the year are going to be days where you've got a long stretch in between a cold front. And just that humidity, it's muggy, it's very humid. You got cloud cover building up, you got very big contrails up in the sky. Yeah, you've got stable weather, and those are typically going to be the best movements of the entire year. A lot of people call them the dog days of summer. A lot of people stop fishing, but that's usually when fishing is its best. And I think personally the biggest reason people don't make catches on these so-called dog days of the summer is because those fish are active and they want usually a fast moving lure. If you're not catching fish on those dog days of the summer, it's usually because your speed control is way off. You got to speed things up. So yeah, those hottest, muggiest days of the year are usually some of the best fishing days you can have. All right. I live in an area where cold fronts come blasting through every third or fourth day. The cloud cover can develop fast and light becomes good between fronts. But why don't I get any fish movements during this period? Welcome to the club. Up here in the Midwest, it's been nicknamed Cold Front Alley. When cold fronts come through, it's not uncommon to get a cold front be blasting through our area here every 2, 3, 4 days. Just a quick note too, the further south you go, you don't get the cold fronts aren't as frequent as they are for the north. Say for example in Florida, I would say for every 3 cold fronts that go through our area up here in the Midwest, one of those makes it to Florida. They usually fizzle out in between here in Florida. But up here in the Midwest, it's called Cold Front Alley. And the reason we don't catch any fish, say cold front comes through on Monday, the second day after the front, it's usually going to be worse, as we said. And then Wednesday, we get cloud cover building up right away. Well, the fish haven't recovered from the first cold front yet, even though you may think that we got good weather conditions, but that front only went through 2 days prior. So even though it may look like we've got good weather conditions, the fish didn't have enough time to recover from the cold front, so they get hit with another cold front. It can be really tough fishing when we get into a weather pattern where we've got multiple fronts going through all the time. That's why watercolor is really important. Like I say, we cannot control the weather, but we do have choices in the lakes we fish, or most of us do, and we can fish a lake that has good watercolor. So if you're up here and you get cold front after cold front after cold front, you may want to find a lake where you've got really good watercolor. All right, that wraps up our weather and water. The next part of the workshop will be structure, breaks, and break lines. Stay tuned for that one. And thanks for watching.